All right, here we are, as promised, with my friend Rocky Buckley. What's happening, man?
Hey, how's it going? Good. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you too. And for you guys, happy Monday, or I suppose in Australia it might be Tuesday already, right?
Yeah.
Possibly. I can't track that stuff.
We're already into Tuesday.
We're already into Tuesday.
All our mates.
Coming to you from the future. Anyway, we're here because I wanted to talk to you about what you've been, what, if anything, you've been learning from all of these big launches I'm seeing you participate in.
Sure.
And I think if I understand what you're doing, the holistic view, I think it's pretty cool, which is it fair to call it like you're an affiliate, right? For a lot of these big launches, or does that not cover the entirety of it?
That does cover it. I mean, there's a more glamorous word that people use is partner, which sounds a lot more.
Which does sound better.
End. Yeah, I mean, but that really is the basic idea. Is you're an affiliate for big launches. I mean, it's a little bit of a different thing than, let's say, signing up to be an Amazon affiliate, where sort of anyone can do it. You just sign up, fill out a form, and you're in. Mm-hmm. Being an affiliate in a large launch, like the two that I've done most recently were Pedro Adeo's Crush It with Challenges launch, and then Stu McLaren's Tribe launch. Mm-hmm. Those are by invite only.
Okay.
So you not anybody can just sign up for those. You have to be invited to participate in that. And then you get taken behind the scenes, and you're kind of in this partner community, and you get to see everything that happens and be a part of it. And that's pretty cool.
Now, on something like that, what do you have to sort of have ready and on deck in order to probably be approved to be, part of one of those launches?
You just kind of have to have the relationships, I think, and you have to have some form of a reason why they would want you to be promoting. Mm-hmm. You have an audience of some kind. You have a list typically, and that's who they look for.
Okay, cool.
I happen to have a relationship with one of the top affiliate managers in the game who runs a lot of these.
Okay.
And so we've been friends for many years, and and it's like, okay, it's just very natural then from a relationship standpoint.
Yeah.
To be asked, But.
Okay, cool. I know there are a lot of people in this group who ask me about affiliates and JV situations and things like that. And, we just went through a module. Well, first I did the challenge, my own challenge. And one of the 5 sort of pillars of how you can become a really potent sort of boutique personal brand is utilize strategic leverage, and that's about partnering. Mm-hmm. And I think, though, that most of the people that are in this group probably have a little ways to go before they'd be invited to like a Pedro Adao or a Stu McLaren launch. But I'm curious what you think. What I postulate is that in the beginning, especially, you should sort of look at strategic leverage as there's 2 sides to it. There's you helping people who aren't quite as far as you. Mm-hmm. And that's very ambiguous, we know, but if somebody reaches out for help, and you can kind of tell if they're at the same place you're at or not, Yeah. Anyway, so I sort of simplified it by saying, like lift up people that are a little behind you in terms of your growth and your audience and your awareness and prestige and brand. And then make an effort to connect with people that are a little further ahead than you. Mm-hmm. And so that you become part of a chain. Well, I'm curious what you think about that as you're sort of coming into the space of developing partnerships.
Yeah, I think that I would step back a little bit, and I would say it is a little bit of a misnomer to think that you have to have some kind of a big audience or a big reputation in order to be asked to promote these things. I don't currently have a really big audience. Okay. I'm still in the process of developing mine. Mm-hmm. So I don't have a big audience, but I think the idea is, is this a person we like? Is this a person we trust? We know that they've got, pull, right? Even if they have a small audience, they still have a good, amount of persuasion ability with their audience. They can pull, they can create results. So you don't need to look for or be a person who has a big name or anything like that, or a lot of numbers behind you. You can get started in these sort of relationships from a pretty early, phase in your business development, but you just kind of have to bring some other things to the table then. And I would say that becomes important, especially if you're looking to develop partnerships of your own to promote your stuff.
Yeah.
So like there's two different ways to look at this. It's like, okay, you want people to promote you, but you also want to promote other people. You're in the middle of those two things. And I think that when you are looking for affiliate partners, you're really just looking, look for people of goodwill that you really like and that you're playing the long game. You're thinking ahead, like, who could this person become, in 2, 3, 5 years? And is it going to serve me to develop this relationship now and nurture that? So like, if you're looking to have, you're going to release a course, a program, something you want other people to promote, start looking for partners, that are maybe lower hanging fruit, that like, hey, they don't have a huge list, but they would love to promote with you. They'd love to partner with you, and look to grow those relationships over a period of time, and I can tell you that the big names look the same way at it. They look at people like me, and I don't have a huge following at this point, but they see the potential.
Yeah. Let me just quickly say hi to Hannah and hi to Robert. And if you're on, please say hi or send some emojis across the screen or something. Just for the love of God, just acknowledge that you're here.
I mean, we would do this for free, and we would do this if there were nobody here. Just that's right. The game.
That's right. This is basically a chat that Rocky and I would have otherwise had by ourselves. So, hey, Robert Abbey, good to see you, buddy.
Hey, Robert.
Yeah, this is an interesting part of the whole sort of I've come full circle back to calling what we do personal branding again. And because I really just, hey, Andrea, and Andrea, I really feel like the direction that everything is going, if you're not a guru, and even then, I mean, those guys are personal and girls are personal brands too.
Sure.
But if you want that like really nimble, high profit margin boutique sort of coaching thing, I think the thing you have to do is focus on being the personal brand, right? And you and I have had some interesting chats about pieces of this in your group. I have what I call your positioning and how powerful that is, your core brand story, that kind of stuff. And then you have to get out there and do, though. And that's, that's a lot where a lot of people sort of get verklempt,
Yeah, because it's not as sexy. The doing part is, it's like you and I were talking even before we came on about our blue collar backgrounds.
Yep.
And it's showing up to the construction site, or it's showing up with the paint cans and let's go roll the walls, and that's what it is. And, coming from that background, I guess we appreciate not having to show up and do the physical work, but it's still showing up and doing the work. The same work ethic applies.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And the thing in the beginning, I'm thinking back to teaching this in the 5-day challenge, this particular idea about partnering and strategic leverage, I call it. I'm curious what you think about this. My experience says that in the beginning, you can't hold on too tightly to any potential partnerships and alliances, because especially when both people have very little sort of social capital, you know what I mean? They just sort of fall apart, and commitment is hard and stuff like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's contrast that to the one that you most recently did with Stu McLaren, which I got to see some of the promotional materials for that. And I told you this, I was like, this is some of the slickest promo materials I've ever seen. Yeah. It's absolutely top shelf. I guess if I was to find a question in all this, what are your thoughts on navigating those early days even if you're a small guy, but you're playing in the same arena as a big guy? Yeah. Before that, what's your thoughts on getting through those sort of those initial kind of attempts at alliances and partnerships and stuff?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I come from a background in my consulting days where I worked with a lot of big corporate clients. So these were really big names in the educational and business publishing space. Companies like Wiley, Pearson Education, Macmillan. And I helped them to roll out what were effectively really big launches. They were bundled product kits that, let's say it was for the educational space. So it might be, let's say, a biology package, right? So there's a biology textbook, and there's the slide set, there's the software, there's the transparencies that are used in the classroom, there's tests, there's study guides, there's all. So basically, in that space that I was in for many, many years, we would prepare for like a year to roll out this bundle of stuff, like this shock and awe package.
Yeah.
That the professors in the schools would go, wow, I get to use all this stuff in the classroom, and I'm going to adopt this now for our university or whatever it might be, right? It might be a setting like that. And so, way back, 25 years ago and beyond that point, I was learning about bundled kits and packages and launches, and it was essentially like that. And so, in that space, I got to see how that world worked. And then when I moved into more of the online internet marketing space, way back in the days of Stompernet, which if people looking back may not remember Stompernet, but that was the biggest internet marketing launch in history back in, I think, 2006. And it was a $23 million launch, and Frank Kern was behind the scenes of all that. And I got to be behind the scenes inside of Stompernet and all of the different products and things that we launched through Stompernet. And so I've kind of been around this for a while, going way, way back. And the one thing that I see going forward, if you want to be somebody who actually is doing affiliate launches yourself and working with partners, is the project management aspect of this. It all comes down to project management. It really does. If you can bring in the skill of being able to like architect a release of something well in advance and set the stages for all of the deadlines, all of the assets, all the resources that need to be in place, all the different pieces of the puzzle, the people, et cetera. If you know how to do project management well, that carries over extremely well into launches. And I think that's part of what you saw inside of Stu's launch, is that everything was thought through in advance. All of the little elements, to make it very, very easy for the partners to sell. And that's part of it. It's thinking it ahead and making sure everything is friction free. Everything is thought of in advance. Everything is provided for people in advance, from the copy, the dates. Like, hey, on this day you're supposed to mail 3 times. We're going to give you the copy. All you have to do is plug in your affiliate link, and it's all how well thought through it is that I think goes a long way toward its success. And I think the difference that you see with the amateurs versus the professionals is the level of detail. Right?
Yes. I mean,
and that's where it really comes down. That's when you see somebody who's organized it super well. They're communicating up front. Everything's got a date attached to it, and it's really, that's where you can see a pro who's going to make a lot of money as he did on his launch versus an amateur who blows it. And it's just like the partners feel like everything's confusing. It's a mess. This person doesn't know what they're doing. Project management is the core skill behind all of this.
That's fascinating. And I mean, using myself as an example, that really explains, God, I was seeing myself in the descriptions you were giving of the amateur, in a lot of cases. My first half dozen challenges were literally just, let's just get people on Zoom for 3, 5, 10 days, whatever. And I suppose I did better than some, but boy, did I, never being able to put my finger on what it was that was missing. Boy, did I see something was missing, And so I'm like thinking of what you showed me from Stu's launch. And I'm like, fuck, what did he do? Just work on this the whole year before launching it?
Yes, they do. Well, that's the thing. Like, you don't even think through it. You're preparing your launch like a year in advance.
Wow.
And you're lining everybody up. Like, you're thinking through this. And that's why Stu only opens once a year. That's why Jeff Walker for years with Product Launch Formula. We're going to release the new edition, just like a textbook, like going back to my days in publishing. every year we're going to come out with a new edition of the biology textbook or whatever.
Right.
It's kind of like that. And it is thought through a year in advance, and it's lining up all the partners. So everybody knows at least 6 months ahead, this launch is coming. This is what it's going to consist of. These are the dates. This is when it's coming out. Prepare to be promoting very heavily the 2 weeks before, whatever it might be. Get on the calendar with Stu or whoever it is, with Manny, to interview Manny inside of your group or whatever it might be. So it's all scheduled out. Yeah, it really literally is a year. It's like releasing a movie.
Yeah.
You know, my son is a movie maker, right? So I went to film school, and I come from that. And you're a movie guy, and it's thinking through like 3 years from now, we're going to be releasing, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, or whatever, and it's preparing for that. Yeah.
Wow. This is this explains a lot. Jesus, man, should we even talk about, like, how can we, is there even anything that is a step down version of this that the sort of, the guy on the street can even use? Because I'll tell you something, and I think this is a really important observation. I've only seen two kinds of launches. The absolute top tier, I'd say Stu's was that. Every time Jeff Walker does one, it's, I fuck, my inbox is Jeff Walker's summer home, basically. Who else have I seen do that? I feel like Christian Mickelson, I saw him do one last year that was really, really just omnipresent. And then I see ones that are very, very amateur, and I don't see anything in between.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I mean, does that match your experience more or less? Or as
sure.
A guy? Yeah.
But you don't need to. But I would say for people who are thinking about what you call strategic leverage, is that you don't need to take a year in advance and do one of these big launches to start. Like what I would do is, and this is something like, let's say you and I could do right now, and I do this right now with people in my Facebook group and among my friends and peers, is they're coming out with something, and it's like they want to try, like, let's say for example your challenge, and you wanted to roll it out. Had we talked in advance, it could have been something like, hey, I'll interview you in my group, and we'll get the word out about it. And I've done that with people they're releasing a book. I got approached recently from somebody who literally was a week away from releasing their virtual live event. And it wasn't going well, and I got asked to promote this, just to help out. And I did, and I brought the person on, and we went live, and and it got it in front of enough people where, I don't know if it did much, but that kind of a thing can happen. Yeah, and I think if you've got something to sell and you've got relationships, hey, why not make a deal and say, hey, I'll give you, some percentage or commission or something like that, and let's do it. Like there are those, really, guerrilla style. They're not launches per se, but they are joint venture relationships, and you can have those all day long if you want to.
Yeah.
It's a good place to start anyway.
I would agree with that. And then sort of circling back to what I was talking about earlier, the challenge has been, and this, by the way, guys, Rocky, guys watching, girls watching, everyone watching, this may be a reflection of me. Okay. But I jokingly once, an ex-girlfriend said to me, I was talking to my therapist about you, which is always a great way to start, And she said, my therapist thinks that you have a clinical case of optimism. She said, it's like you can't see the downside in things, And I do think that's true in a way. And so for me, the biggest challenge of any kind of early partnerships, I've got a little bit of street cred now, and so it would be different. People sort of, sussed me out differently. But in the beginning, it was like people would just ghost, or they just didn't have the you know what I mean? They didn't have the smoke one way or another to cross the finish line.
Okay.
So I would very much like all these the organic marketing secrets people to at least know how to do sort of a low-key launch, a low-key partnership of any kind. Do you have any filters or scrutinizing tools, what would you say for these sort of, if somebody's a newbie and they're looking for partnerships, is there any advice you could give them?
I think it really goes back to old school relationship building skills.
Dude, I love that. Yeah.
It's funny because actually coming up in the next week or so, I'm actually going to release the interview with my friend Matt McWilliams, who is the affiliate manager.
Okay.
And he runs everybody's, like, he runs all the big, he ran Stu McLaren's launch and Pedro's and other people's.
Yeah.
And I'm going to release an interview with him. And I think you're going to find our conversation to be pretty illuminating, because it really does come down to old school skills. The whole way that you, do this, is like you make friends with people and you build relationships with them. And it's like, hey, you know, Manny, yeah, sure, I'm happy to promote you, you know?
Yeah.
That's really how it starts.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go like, okay, who's got a really big list? And let me kind of try to get into their world. And it doesn't necessarily have to work like that. It's like finding peers, people on, you know, on Facebook or on LinkedIn or whatever, that are kind of at a similar level. And it's like, hey, they might have a small list of a couple hundred people, let's say.
Yeah.
But if you get enough of those people who like you, but that's oftentimes better than having a couple people who have a huge list, and they might not be that into it. They might mail for you once or twice, but other people will work really hard for it, you know? And it's really, I think that's what it's about. It's about, you know, it's very much like marketing, really, except you're looking to build partners instead of clients. Instead of
marketing,
the same way you would look to attract clients.
Yeah.
You're just shifting the perspective a little bit, and you're looking to attract partners. Yeah. But the same mechanisms are in place. In fact, our mutual friend Jim Padilla teaches this a lot. Yeah. And it's about, like he says, I spend most of my day thinking about ways to create partnerships instead of clients. Because when you create partners, the downstream effect of that is you have a force multiplier in effect. You can create a lot more clients through creating partners than going directly after the clients. And it's the same sort of thing. It's like, let me go and find who are those attractive people that are in my space. Yeah. We don't necessarily compete with each other. We complement each other. They seem like a cool person. Let me develop a relationship with them. And then over time, and let me see what I can do for them.
Yeah.
Can I help you? Can I promote you in some way? Right. So that's one of the things I'm hoping for too, is that some of the relationships that I'm building with some of these bigger names, eventually down the road, hey, they may end up promoting me one day. Yeah. You know, and I would like that to happen, you know, but anyway, so
dude,
it's all that strategery that goes
strategery.
Yeah.
Strategery. Yeah. A la Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
There was so much in there that's so important, Rocky, in that little 2 minutes. And I'm going to see what I can pull out and just sort of shine a light on. I think that it's not so much in the internet marketing space is implied but not said. It's a really funny thing, right? Because you have all these people who are behaving in ways that don't seem authentic and legit, and they might not even know why they are. But it's because the messaging that is hitting us over and over again has all this implied but not said stuff in it. And one of the things is this idea of how and why we build relationships. And I just think that you just kind of you took that down at the knees just now. You really did. You know, it's like, don't be like, oh, what can I get from this person and how can I sort of sneak into their world? But that's very much how it's implied but not said that we should approach relationship building as marketers. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that alone, man, for anybody watching, that is huge. It's here's my hope for you guys watching. My hope is that you read and hear enough of my content that you get my voice in your head, especially when it comes to ethics. You know, like I really want you to, every time you have a decision to make, I'm hoping that there's a little Manny on your shoulder that is hopefully guiding you in the right way. And this is one of those things. It may seem a little glad-handing to say it, but like Rocky and I, you know, neither of us approached the other one with, what can I get from this guy? And how can I sidle into his world? You know, And that's so much more powerful. I think it's a little harder too, because it requires us to have a level of presence where we're actually contributing to new relationships. So I think that one was very, very important, really important.
Cool.
The idea about, getting a whole bunch of small, maybe small impact people, that doesn't sound very good. People who don't yet have massive impact, as a way to do a launch. I think that's really a cool idea. And then there was one more thing I really wanted to highlight, but unfortunately I'm losing it, along with losing everything. So Robert Abbey, I want to single you out, my friend. I can tell you're getting a lot out of this, and I appreciate all the commentary and the feedback and the engagement. So do you think that is the pared down way that somebody who's not at a level to, sort of deal with, what did you say the affiliate manager's name was?
Was Matt McWilliams?
Yeah, somebody who's maybe not at their game isn't there yet. This is a way they can start to think about affiliate launches and stuff.
That's how Matt started. He tells the story about when he first started out and needed rapid growth.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, he learned about affiliate marketing and so on. And, the low-hanging fruit was the people out there who did not have the huge lists.
Yeah.
And they're approachable, and they're looking for an opportunity.
Sure, absolutely.
It's like, hey, if I can interview you for my podcast,
mm-hmm.
and I get a commission of, a piece of the sale and so on, that's great. I would love to. There's so many people out there who would love to do that. And it really is it's all about the long game. Really, I think it really is about the mindset of, it's not thinking about that transactional thing.
Yeah.
What can I get today?
Yeah.
It really is about those long-term relationships. Like, are we going to be friends in 10 years?
Yeah.
Are you and I going to be sitting on a beach together and, in 10 years with a group of people, and we're all partners with each other and we all help each other? That's how I see it. At least that's part of the reason I'm in business. I want to have those relationships where in 10 years, it's like we've got this whole community of great people that all love each other and they all help each other and we're all succeeding together.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. And I think, maybe for guys like you and us who, spent a lot of years doing business offline, relationships, that's how you do business offline. And
no kidding, right?
I mean, I was a BNI, I ran a BNI group. So I learned all about Giver's Gain and all sorts of different kinds of businesses and helping each other. And that's the way that I've kind of come online as well, as I bring the same sort of perspective online. And I'm sure you do as well.
I definitely try to.
That's how you operate. And it's about those skills. And I think people who have only done business online, unfortunately, they haven't necessarily learned those sort of skills, but the offline skills translate directly online, and it makes you much, much more, I think, powerful and effective and likable to other people.
Yeah, likable to other people.
Because you had to do business that way.
Yeah.
So
I think that's so important, and I'm a champion of the soft skills. And even one step further, I'm a champion of not even learning the soft skills for some specific end game.
Right.
It just makes you a more well-rounded, better person.
Sure.
And I think about all the research that has been done and probably is still done. It pretty much unequivocally shows, there's so much research that shows that two people of generally parallel skill, one having soft skills and the other not, the person with soft skills always rises in any entity, any organization. It's just that important. It's interesting because I'm taking a whole month right now in the Wolf Pack just to teach charisma. I haven't done anything else for a month. It's all been 2 weeks. This is a whole month, and it's just going to scratch the surface.
Yes.
But these guys, yourself included, you'll have my perspectives on you know, how to approach these things.
Mm-hmm.
So I love
well, it's interesting, but and it really does come down to the heart attitude, though. I think even with charisma, and I'm not sure to what extent you're teaching this, but one of the biggest things that makes you charismatic is listening.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's one of the things people say about Bill Clinton. Why Bill Clinton could mesmerize people was because he would make you feel like you were the most important person in the world.
Yeah.
As he would just sit and he would ask you questions and listen.
Yeah.
And that's one of those skills that makes you magnetic to other people. And it's a giving skill. You don't even have to be talking and shining and looking like this great person. It's the compassion, it's the empathy, and it's the listening that will rivet people to you. Oddly enough, and we don't think about charisma that way.
Right.
But that's one of the core elements of charisma is, do you listen?
I think about it that way because I geek out on it at a very granular level, but most people don't. Yeah. I'm trying to remember the name of the European politician. I can't remember his name, but there's this famous anecdote about he was running against someone else who was a little bit more like a narcissist, but really outgoing and charming and everything. And they both took the same woman to dinner while they were running a campaign. And after going to dinner with both of them, the girl was interviewed. And the first guy, you know, they said, well, what was it like going to dinner with him? Said, well, he was amazing. He left me with the distinct impression that he was the most interesting person I'd ever met. And then the guy who the story's about, and what was it like going to dinner with him? I liked him better because he left me with a distinct impression that I was the most interesting person he'd ever met.
Exactly. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
totally right. But it is those skills, like you're saying, it is those soft skills and those people skills and those relationship building skills that really, you know, because if you think ahead, like, well, who do I want to be in business in 10 years? What do I want it to look like? And who do I want to be surrounded by? I think one of the very best outcomes that you can have in business is to be surrounded by peers that you love each other and you all help each other and you succeed together with other people. I think that's one of the best outcomes that you can possibly have. And it's one of those things that is not going anywhere. You know, we've all seen the world turned upside down and so on. And one of the most timeless things that's never going away is your network. Your network really is, that's where your true wealth is. And the more you can cultivate that and build that, you know, that's never going away. It doesn't matter what happens with technology, different platforms, Facebook could blow up, whatever. If you've got those core relationships with people and you can all help each other, you're bulletproof at that point. And I think it's important to think about your business that way.
I love that. I'm all in with everything you said. I think that relationships are essential, but I'll tell you what you said that I really loved that I hadn't actually thought about before was thinking about your business in terms of the network you have in 10 years and how do you feel with these relationships in 10 years. That to me is, well, so far it's the most profound thing we've covered, you know, and even though it's a very easy step for me to make, that's a nice perspective shift because shit, man, I'll be the first to tell you, I can get so caught up in the short run, you know, like talking to my wife yesterday and she's like, you realize you've only been building your group for 90 days, right? Because I'm just in the car and I'm like, honey, it's taking so fucking long. You know? She's like, isn't it like 90 days? And I was like, oh yeah. All right. You know? No, and I think I think a lot of us can get like that, right? I'm a big fan of the Stephen Covey in general. I mean, he's the guy for me, but his 4-quadrant model, are you familiar with it? Yeah. I figured you would be. I'm a big fan of the quadrant 1, quadrant 2 thing. Urgent over here, important, but not urgent here, and disciplining ourselves to put time into the quadrant 2, important, but not urgent. But the way you presented it there is it extends that idea out. And it makes it about people rather than outcomes. Yeah. I love that.
Well, it can be easy, you know, especially for, it's funny, I was surveying people maybe a few months ago or so on, but I think a lot of people who are, I actually ran this question in my group and I was asking about how important local business is to people.
Yeah.
Right. Doing business locally.
Mm-hmm.
And virtually everybody that answered in the comments was like, I hate local business. I don't, one of the things I love is that I get to be in front of my computer all day and I can do my business in my pajamas and I never have to see people. And I was actually really surprised at how online entrepreneurs are total introverts and don't want to see people.
Yeah.
And I'm an introvert myself. I'm definitely wired for solitude and I like that. But like, you're leaving so much on the table if you approach your business that way, that it's just online and I'm just going to like put my stuff out and I'm going to make money and I don't ever have to see anybody. And I think you're losing so much of the juice out of business by having that kind of an approach. You're losing like the joy in this really is in the relationships. And it's in, you know, I mean, again, I don't know how many people are into like masterminding and stuff like that, but you know, that's much more where I'm going in business, is toward memberships and masterminds, because it's all about surrounding with people. Because I really do believe, as I said earlier, that's where your true wealth is in the relationships. And that's where you're going to be bulletproof. I think we've all had to think about, how do we future-proof our businesses against shocks, things that can change overnight. And, you know, everybody talks about don't build on a rented land, right? Don't build your business on rented land. But the same thing occurs with relationships. If you're building your business around yourself, alone, a lone wolf, you know, that kind of a thing. No pun intended. Lone wolf. But I'm saying, like, if you're building your business around that, me, a personal brand, me, without the context of the relationships, I think you're going to shoot yourself in the foot in the future.
On
that's
so
how
many levels.
I coach people that way.
On so many levels. That's the thing, right? It's so a lot of people in my imagination won't even grasp the sort of the entirety of what you're saying, because we're so transactionally wired. Not all of us, but certainly a number of us. Those who are transactionally wired, it won't even, unfortunately, probably get the breadth of what's being talked about here. But, you know, at least I can say the people that are on the call, because these are all Wolfpack members. You guys rock, by the way. These are not transactional people. These are heart-centered, holistic people. I didn't even know the conversation would go here, bro. This is so good. I mean, it's such important stuff to think about, you know. It's almost like we sort of moved out of the realm of discussing JVs and stuff like that and into this deeper thing.
But it's all connected. It really is the same
it is
subject,
all connected.
because it really is all about relation. I mean, other than the technical nuts and bolts of how to run a launch really well. And even that is about giving. It's about making it easy for people. It's about thinking ahead for your partners. How can I make their lives really, really easy and make this a pleasant process for them, incentivize them, let's have fun together. Like, that's one of the things I see behind the scenes with these big launches, is how much effort is made on fun. Let's do prizes, let's do these contests, but it's all facilitating the enjoyment of doing this together and being in relationship with each other. So even from a project management, launch, nuts and bolts, schedule, deadline standpoint, it's all about the human aspect of it. How do we make this fun? So yes, it really is all the same subject. Yeah,
I get that. I see that. That's I feel like there's so much for me to think about. We're running so the first launch, or not launch, but the challenge I just did was sort of a test run, just to see if there was viability. And now in about 6 weeks, we're going to go a little bigger with it. And one of the things I was worried about with running cold traffic to the sign up was these people aren't already indoctrinated. They're not already nurtured. You know, what's going to happen? Are they going to be harder to sort of take care of? But now I'm thinking, well, shoot, maybe we just establish a whole bunch of, you know, partnerships instead, a whole bunch of affiliates, you know, to jump in and help out. There's so much I'm thinking about. Like, I'm always tweaking in my head about, you know, what the next steps are. What would you want to leave these guys with? Looks like you might be frozen up. Come on, StreamYard. No. All right, I'm going to wrap with you guys a little bit, hoping that Rocky can jump back in. What are your thoughts on this stuff, you guys? So Andrea, Rachel, Robert, Dave, Robert, multiple Roberts, Hannah. Anybody got any thoughts or feedback on what we've talked about so far? I think that I'm delighted by what Rocky has brought to the table so far. And again, I hope he's able to jump back in and StreamYard didn't just totally, or his internet didn't just totally bomb out on him. But I'd love to hear your guys' feedback. Who's got something for me? Who's got something for me? If you're enjoying this, by the way, please send a bunch of emojis across the screen as well. Huh. Well, looks like... Wait, I see the little thing twisting. There he is.
Are we back? Okay. I wasn't sure if you lost me. I lost you. Sorry about that. I don't know.
I missed you.
Anyway, I missed you too.
I don't know who lost who there, but
let's go get some wine. Yeah. And continue the conversation later. I'm sorry. So where did we leave off? We were kind of like,
I was asking you, if it was going to drop, it dropped at a good place. My question for you was, what would you leave these guys with? You know, that your good lessons learned, et cetera, that you'd like people to know.
I'm sorry, you cut out just a few seconds before that.
What would you like to leave this audience with?
Wow. What I would say is I think there's a tremendous opportunity to leverage your business using affiliates and joint venture partners.
Mm-hmm.
This fairly rapidly, and that's through paid traffic or using other people's audiences. And those are two viable ways to blow up big fast, right? So I would say, like, think about your own business from the standpoint of just opening your mind to the possibilities of having other partners who would come in alongside you and promote your stuff.
Yeah.
You don't need to think about it in terms of a huge launch right now. It is something right now you can have other people promoting your stuff. So I would think about ways to maybe make that happen and create some kind of deals that make that attractive to people. And I would say, look, you don't need to find superstars. You can find low-hanging fruit people that have small audiences, perhaps like yours, who are like you, maybe. Mm-hmm. If you're not really big or anything like that at that point, find peers who you could promote, they can promote, and try to build those relationships and think long-term. I think if you are going to go down the road of launch, give yourself plenty of time to ramp up. Think about project management. Think about making life easy for everybody. Think about making it very clear, easy to understand, not confusing, easy to do. How do you make it fun? How do you make it participatory? And so on. So those are, I would guess those are kind of the three big pieces of it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, like we've been talking, it all comes down to being a good person, good relationships, giving, being generous to others, and allowing that to come back to you as well. So
I love it, man. Yeah, I love where this conversation went.
Yeah,
it was great. Yeah. All right, my friend, you want to stick around for a minute after we sign off?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Thanks, you guys, for tuning in. I hope you got a lot out of this.